Fields back, Lions rush 4. Fields gonna get hit. Ball's loose inside the 5. It's kicked out of the end zone. That's a safety. That's a safety. The Lions are gonna win this game. It went out of the back of the end zone, and the Lions are gonna lock this one down. What a game! What a game!
Guys, holy shit. We are a resilient team, gentlemen. We are resilient. We're going to find a way to win. They freaking came out and they fought us, but we fought harder. And we went and got the win.
Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. I'm Connor Rogers alongside Matthew Berry, Jay Croucher. Guys, I can't imagine why a team gets fired up to play for Dan Campbell. I can't figure it out.
I will tell you what, that was exactly what Steven is like in our pre-show meeting.
It's true.
Primal Roar.
Primal Roar really gets us fired up, gets us excited to come out here and just crush for you guys as well. So I get what the Lions are going through because we experience that every single day here in the Happy Hour.
Obviously, that was Dan Campbell. That was the Lions' radio call and a thrilling comeback victory over a division rival in the Chicago Bears. Listen, a lot to get through today. Everything from Week 11. We got Weekend Warriors. We got your Sunday Scaries. We're going to talk about that Lions running back timeshare going on. But before we get into all of it, how about Tommy DeVito drinking free today, right?
Tommy
Gotta give some love
DeVito,
to Tommy
unbelievable.
DeVito.
It's Tommy DeVito drinks free. It's everyone that had to go without a shower after the game. They drink free. But whoever has to come in there and try to fix FedEx Field's, entire water system.
Mission Impossible.
The curse of Dan Snyder lives on. Tommy DeVito, in fairness to Ron Rivera, a lot of fans out there piling on Ron Rivera for losing at home when you were a 9-point favorite.
It's hard to beat Tommy DeVito.
That's right. Yeah. You can only hope to contain him. You can't stop Tommy DeVito.
Yes. I mean,
every other team has, but in theory, you can't stop Tommy DeVito.
Just imagine if they'd thrown the ball against the Jets. It'd be a completely different
story. It's unbelievable. I have to tell you, it's what I would say here. What I would say here is, again, so many people want to pile on Ron Rivera, and just, you know me, like I'm a Commanders fan, I'm diehard, I watch the team, and I just want to say, in fairness to Ron Rivera, he is known as an offensive coach. He made his career as an offensive coach, so it's not fair to put the defensive. I'm being told that's wrong, actually. He started his career as a linebackers coach and then the defense coordinator. But in fairness to Ron Rivera, okay, he has never been able to use, because he has, kind of control of the roster as well as being coach. He has never been able to use any kind of like first round draft capital, early round draft capital, or free agency money on defensive players. It's all been offense for the. I'm being told that's wrong as well. Never mind. Excuse me. Never mind. Never mind. Anyway, Tommy DeVito drinks free. As do the Giants. Congratulations.
It should be.
The Ron Rivera era can't end soon enough.
It should be his parents, Tommy DeVito's parents, who drink free, because I'm sure that he got home late and had to go to bed late. And when my kids get to bed late, it's a complete disaster the day after. So I hope that Mummy and Daddy DeVito are okay.
We'll bathe them in the morning?
Yeah, exactly. So I hope that his parents are doing okay, because they probably had a really heavy load to deal with this morning.
Tough early morning.
Yeah.
Supper on the table.
You just wonder, did Mommy DeVito say, get in the shower?
Was he fed at the right hour?
Right. It's hard to.
There's a lot going on.
Hard to know. Anyway, we have. I have once again derailed the show, and this is a new record for me. Usually, it takes me at least a minute or two to derail the show, but I've done that now. Hey, let's go Detroit. Detroit's fun. Detroit's a fun story.
They are a fun story. We'll get into our Rotoworld Player news. Of course, for all your Rotoworld Player news, go to NBCSports.com. I was going to say average time to derail the show is a little different after a Commander's loss, but let's stay on track with the Lions.
A bad Commander's loss, and it's hard to differentiate.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, this was special.
This is a bad one.
It's not okay after the Eagles' losses. They were okay.
Yeah, they're okay. We showed up.
Giants' losses, both of them, not so good.
Right.
Not so good.
Or when we got blown out at home on national television against the Bears.
Yeah.
Question, though.
Yeah.
Do you think they were playing the long game to make sure the Giants don't get Drake May or Caleb Williams?
I mean, maybe.
Ron Rivera's not going to be there for the long game.
Ron Rivera maybe has a master plan.
You know what? I would love to think that was the case. I would love to think that's the case. But again, this is a man that gave Carson Wentz almost $30 million.
Right.
So, no. I don't think
didn't realize they'd been eliminated from the playoffs last year.
Yes, he didn't realize that either. Didn't realize they were playing for the playoffs.
Maybe not a master plan.
Doesn't know how the replay works. He's just like, well, I was waiting for it to go in the jumbotron. Remember that one? They asked him why he didn't challenge the fourth down, and he's like, oh, I didn't see it enough. I was waiting for them to show it on the replay. I'm like. So you're like any of us at home.
40 tablets on the sideline and just staring at the jumbotron.
Like every other NFL team has like a guy that's their entire job.
And a replay center with an Xbox controller. Yes, this is a real thing.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, all right. Anyways, speaking of draft noteworthy teams, the Chicago Bears, that's a tough loss at Detroit. A thrilling comeback win for the Lions. Listen to this with the Lions
But they
right
covered. Now. The Bears covered.
They did.
That's the most important.
Never really in doubt.
Disrespectful line.
Yeah. A little disrespectful.
We talked about that in the pregame. We like the Bears to cover.
7.5. 8. Yep.
Jay, listen to this one for the Lions. This is their best start, 8-2, since 1962 right now.
Seems quite good.
Sizzling Lions.
Is this if they go 13-4? That's the best season in Detroit Lions history, I think. Just looking through, like they haven't won a lot of games in their history. Scrolling back, 1961. No, they've never won 13 games ever. So it'd be the greatest season in Detroit Lions history if they go 13-4.
When they want to celebrate, when they want to bring back so you're bringing back Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders. Wayne Fonts? Like who's next? Who's third?
Nate Burleson?
Maybe Nate Burleson. Golden Tate?
Yeah,
like Golden Tate.
And Dominic Sue?
Okay.
Yeah, we're definitely forgetting.
Amir Abdullah?
Nick Farrelly?
Yeah.
Amir Abdullah is definitely a sneaky one.
Yeah.
Man, Lions legends.
Kenny Golladay.
Oh, man.
John Kittner.
Yeah, they got Kenny Golladay paid. Oh, we did.
Scott Mitchell?
Yeah.
Does the Matt Stafford bring back a little awkward?
Maybe.
A little awkward.
Stafford.
Yeah. He wears a Super Bowl ring, but
right. If he shows up with a Super Bowl ring. I'm just saying, it's just like it's a,
it's an odd ceremony.
It's an
which
odd.
We love. We love how weird that is.
Listen, we are Lions fans here at the happy hour as well. Great game for my ride. Once again, another great game for my ride or die. I'm on Ross St. Brown. But I think the most interesting thing here is, of course, the running backs. The question coming into the game was, can you start, is it Gibbs, is it Montgomery, is it both? And the answer is most certainly both. Guys, I mean, the fact is, as we said this on Fantasy Football pregame, I'm starting both guys. I have both as top 20 plays. I had Gibbs as a top 10 play, Montgomery as a top 20 play. That's how it ends up working out. Going into Monday Night Football, Gibbs is the third best running back in fantasy this week. Monty is running back 12. Jahmyr Gibbs, guys, has now had 20 or more fantasy points in 4 straight games, and I think this is impressive. In back-to-back games, he's gotten 67% of the goal line rushes. In the 2 games since Dave Montgomery returned, Jahmyr Gibbs is averaging over 15 touches a game. So the workload has certainly been there. It has not gone away since Dave Montgomery has come back.
Yeah, and I think another good thing tangentially for Gibbs and Montgomery is that Jared Goff was terrible in this game until he wasn't, and he won them the game down the end. But he threw 3 picks, and they were like bad Jared Goff picks. They weren't the tip ball variety. He just wasn't seeing guys. It was kind of inexplicable. And I think that they want to protect Goff as much as possible, and they will run the ball as first option. So that bodes well. And also, they have a very easy schedule coming up too. So
well, we talked about this in the preseason around Amon-Ra, around Goff, around all the Lions, Gibbs and Montgomery both on the love list. So they play Green Bay at home on Thanksgiving. Obviously, the Lions always play on Thanksgiving. Then they're at New Orleans, at Chicago, home to Denver. Again, so other than the at Chicago game, we talked about how they're just playing nothing but dome games like the rest of the way. And so, again, 3 of their next 4 are in a dome. Obviously, the game in New Orleans, that'll be indoors as well. Here's my question for you, Jay.
Yeah.
Dave Montgomery has had at least 17 points in both games since returning. He's played 5 full games this year. He's scored in all 5. He's averaging over 20 fantasy points per game. But he's played under 50% of the snaps each of the last 2 weeks. Is he because he's playing less snaps than Gibbs, how touchdown dependent do you think Montgomery is? And does it matter because they score at such a high rate, and when they get close, he's getting enough? Like, does it matter that is he one of the few touchdown-proof guys?
It's kind of analog to Jamal Williams last year. It's not quite the same thing. I think Montgomery gives you a little bit more, but the key to me is that Montgomery 2 targets in the passing game yesterday. Jahmyr Gibbs 6. And if the split in carries is only going to be Montgomery 12, Gibbs 8, it just makes more sense that they would skew more towards Jahmyr Gibbs as the season goes on because he's just better. He's better than Dave Montgomery. He's more explosive. Montgomery is still going to get his because their last 7 games, they're going to be favored in every single one of them except for at Dallas in week 17. So they're going to be running the ball. And if Dave Montgomery is touchdown dependent, great. He's going to score touchdowns.
But let me add this on. With how easy their schedule is, if they are playing with a lead like we think they will be, wouldn't they try to close games with Montgomery and keep Gibbs fresh for the first half of future games? It's a weird double edge. Like, there's 2 sides to this one.
I
think I just love both of them going forward.
At the end of the day, in a game in which they trailed, they had to make this crazy comeback. I mean, they wind up, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs each get 14 touches in this game. And towards the end of the game, Gibbs was out there. He gets a goal line carry. He gets down at the 1. Bears actually call a timeout to try to preserve clock. Then Montgomery comes in, scores against his former team, #revenge game. We love to see that. But I think had Chicago not called a timeout, it would have been Gibbs getting the goal line carry once again there. But I think you're right, Connor. Like, I think the underlying metrics in a different situation might concern you a little bit, but here I don't think they do.
No, and I think he'll be fine. And the other thing, too, with the Lions is, like, they're good. They're a very good team, but they're not the caliber of the Eagles or the Niners. They're only 7.5-point favorites against the Bears, who are going to be in the mix for the number 1 pick. Like, these games, they're not going to blow teams out by 30 points most of the time. I think these games, they'll be leading, but the game will be close enough that I think you keep your best guys in. And I think both of these guys will be monsters down the stretch.
On the Bears side of things, a solid game from Justin Fields. A very efficient game from Justin Fields. He obviously gets it done with both his arm and his legs. He runs for over 100 yards. Top 10 finish right now for Justin Fields here, Barry. And they're just a fascinating team because as we get closer to the end of the season, Fields is playing well. He's healthy now, but this is a team that might pick twice in the top 5 of the draft.
Yeah, I mean, there's a kind of a weird real-life NFL dynamic, but for our purposes in terms of fantasy football, the question is, is Justin Fields going to be the QB1 you drafted him to be? He was bad at the beginning of the year. He had over 20 fantasy points in the 2 games prior to the injury. Then he goes down. T-Bag takes over for a while as well, but then he comes back in his first game out on the road at Detroit, a tough game against a divisional rival that's in first place. He puts up another 20-point game here as well as we enter Monday Night Football. He's the 8th best quarterback in fantasy. Over 100 rushing yards in this game as well. He looked the part, 16-23, 169 yards as well. Doesn't throw a pick in this one. Got DJ Moore involved as well. You saw a little bit of Kmet, not a ton, but they were able to run the ball effectively, not just Justin Fields, but also keep in mind, by the way, Diontae Foreman starts this game, gets the touchdown, leaves then early. It was pretty much Khalil Herbert after that. But the way they were moving the ball was through Fields' arm and legs.
Yep, an absolute dime touchdown pass to DJ Moore that we saw there. And the good thing with Fields, too, is that so here's a game in Week 15 at Cleveland. Okay, that's brutal. Cleveland have the best defense in the NFL. Outside of that, nothing really intimidating on the schedule. So I think that he is going to be more like the guy that we hoped that he would be coming into the season when he was, projected to be a QB 5-6, that type of range.
They're on the road at Minnesota this week as well, and then they've got a bye. So and then they're home to Detroit. So 2 of the next 3, right? Not easy matchups, but games in which they should be trailing and where Justin Fields should have to all right, let me put you on the back and do this. So yeah, I mean, clearly a QB1 the rest of the way.
And while if you have
Except
Fields,
the Cleveland game.
Yes,
his return is great news, but it's even better news if you have DJ Moore. DJ Moore is just a totally different player when Justin Fields is starting, Matthew.
The last 4 full games that DJ Moore and Justin Fields have played, he scored. DJ Moore has scored. Something he never did in Carolina. I forget who the head coach was at Carolina for much of DJ Moore's career there. It escapes me. But for whatever reason, they just never seem to get a lot out of DJ Moore in terms of end zone usage, red zone usage as well. But he's been scoring touchdowns at a high rate here in Chicago, especially when he's got Justin Fields under center. He had a 40% target share in Week 11. It's his highest target share in a game. This is good.
Yeah.
It's very good for DJ Moore, a wide receiver 2 rest of the way.
Last 3 games that DJ Moore has played with a full Justin Fields, taking out the Minnesota game where Fields got hurt. 131 receiving yards, 230 receiving yards, 96, and he scored 5 touchdowns in those 3 games.
It's unbelievable. That's, by the way, those 5, I'm almost positive those 5 touchdowns are more than he ever scored in an entire season in Carolina.
Yep, I think that's
I would
correct.
wager that.
Yeah. Again, I forget who the coach was. It's someone, hey, Blake, look up for me. I know there was a guy that was coach for a long time in Carolina that had DJ Moore on his team. It escapes me. We can move on while Blake looks that up.
Our next game, the Texans stay hot. They win 21-16 over Kyler Murray's Cardinals. The Cardinals have lost 9 straight road games. It's the first time since 2003, and obviously not all of those have been started by Kyler Murray right now. But, I mean, the story of the Texans' passing offense continues here, Jay.
CJ Stroud is just an absolute monster. It's terrifying. Even in the game where, this is a bad game for CJ Stroud. He throws the 3 picks. Some of these were bad decisions, but the volume that he has at the moment, 37 pass attempts, 336 yards through the air, throws the 2 touchdowns, and just the simpatico nature that he has with Tank Dell, that relationship, Dell going 8 for 149 and a touchdown. Nico Collins gets back. I mean, I think this is just a locked-in, explosive offense. You're just starting CJ Stroud, Tank Dell, Nico Collins every week.
So you see here your fantasy leaders as we head into Monday Night Football again, Tank Dell shows up as the 3rd best wide receiver in football. And I need a ruling here from you guys, if you don't mind. I asked this on Twitter. I didn't get a ton of responses. People were divided, but most people said yes, absolutely. Which is, are you allowed to victory lap your victory lap, which was around victory lapping your victory lap?
Yeah, so it's like when DiCaprio wakes up on the beach in Inception and he doesn't know how deep into the dream that he's gone. Yes, you can do that, Matthew. It's your show.
Do we have the
you
tape,
want.
Adam? Go ahead. We do not have the tape, I'm being told.
Yes.
So in essence, basically, which is disappointing, which is a backup producer, what are you going to do? Look, the fact is, what we were going to do is because again, previously I had victory lapped my victory lap, which was a victory lap of my original preseason call of Tank Dell's going to be a thing, guys. Go get it. And we've talked up Tank Dell quite a bit this entire year, and so I've been victory lapping my victory laps, not actually victory lapping the call, but now victory lapping my victory laps.
Tank Dell is looking very thing-ish at the moment. He's a monster, and the key thing there is that they're just able to keep Stroud clean more often. Now they've got Tunsil back, offensive line is healthier, he's throwing from a clean pocket. And when you give CJ Stroud a clean pocket, he's been the best quarterback in football just about.
Over the last 3 weeks, you see what CJ Stroud has done over his last 3 games, right? Just ridiculous, right? Over 300 yards in each three of these games. He's got 9 touchdowns. I just did that math right here in my head. I don't want to brag.
Hesitated a bit.
Well, I wanted to count it up in my head, but immediately didn't have to use my calculator app or anything like that. Literally just counted up in my head. No big deal. Don't want to brag, but yeah, absolutely 9 touchdowns. That's an average, by the way, Jay, of 3 touchdowns per game.
Yep.
He's averaging over 300 passing yards per game and 3 touchdowns the last 3 weeks. By the way, during that stretch, here's the entire list of wide receivers that have more fantasy points than Tank Dell over the last 3 weeks. CeeDee Lamb, my guy, 8.
That's good.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, my fantasy ride or die. Keenan Allen, who I ranked below Mike Williams in the preseason. And that's it. That's the entire list. I
give you credit because you didn't have to remind everyone of that.
All right, listen. If I'm gonna
balance, victory lap, victory lap.
If I'm gonna victory lap and pat myself on the back, I gotta call myself out for bad calls. That was one of them. I did say, I think one of my bold predictions of the preseason was that I thought this was the year that Mike Williams overtakes Keenan Allen. We'll never know because he got hurt. So maybe I got the injury out. But anyway, that's how good Tank Dell has been. He's literally the 4th best wide receiver in fantasy over the last 3 weeks. And I think when you watch these games, some of it was, Nico Collins was banged up. So, but the fact of the matter is, against a run funnel defense in Arizona and with Nico Collins back, Tank Dell not only put up huge numbers here, Jay and Connor, but he looked the part. Yeah. That's the thing. This isn't like fluky production. Connor, I mean, this is what this kid did in college.
He was a target monster in college. I mean, when you look at what Dana Holgerson's offense did with him, he was constantly in motion. He was targeted nearly 200 times. He was the offense. Him and Clayton Tune would drop back, and wherever Tank Dell got his motion started and started running, he would throw down the field to him or he'd throw a short area pass that he could make somebody miss. So this is nothing new for Tank Dell, but it's really cool to see the Texans kind of be able to go pass happy when they need to and be willing to feature such young players in that regard.
Okay, so I thought you had a joke lined up, Matthew.
I did, but I wasn't about Tank Dell.
Okay, no, that's good.
It was just all I was going to say was I want to take a moment here.
Quite the smile.
Think of him. I was just going to say I just want to take a moment here. Like I was just making a joke to make a joke about Adam, who works very hard here at the show. I apologize. Like he does a bunch of different stuff for us here at NBC Sports and specifically Happy Hour in pregame. He is not the backup producer. That's Pete.
Oh man, there it is.
Last thing on this game, Connor, Devin Singletary.
Yeah,
Just continue.
volume.
I mean, I started Devin Singletary yesterday over Josh Jacobs, Ken Walker. Did it with confidence, and he's just a
feel
locked
good
in.
about that now.
Yeah, I mean, Ken Walker obviously gets hurt.
I don't know
but
if Dameon Pierce gets this job back.
No, I don't think so.
Why should he?
I mean, 100%. So they play. The schedule isn't great coming up, right? So here's the only downside here. Houston is home to Jacksonville, pretty good defense. Home to Denver, a very improved defense. At the Jets, defense is all they got. And then at Tennessee, which is never easy.
There's a Cleveland game coming up as well after that, I think. So it's not
So
great.
we will see, but I don't know. I think until further notice, and even if Dameon Pierce comes back, the Texans are rolling in a game in which, to your point, real life wise, the Cardinals were plucky. Cardinals should have won that game. They covered. We talked about this on pregame. We liked them to cover. But there was a lot of fourth downs that they didn't convert that they should have. Like Kyler made some bad throws on fourth down. Like that's a game, honestly, the Cardinals should have won. I think Houston knows they're lucky to get away with a win there. Credit C.J. Stroud and the offense for putting them on their back. But I think the schedule does get tougher. But even if Dameon Pierce comes back, I just don't know how the Texans say we're going away from what's working. Like, and until further notice, you are starting Tank Dell, Nico Collins, and Devin Singletary. And C.J. Stroud, just point blank.
Yeah, I mean, the note about Singletary being their first rusher with back-to-back 100-yard games since 2018 is just, I mean, what
Who was it? Was it Arian
Lamar
Foster?
Miller.
Lamar Miller.
Yeah.
Lamar Miller.
Yeah, that's a good
God.
trivia question.
Those
For
are the
But
days.
as we're talking about,
Devin
like
Singletary of his era.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, yes.
No, but what's so funny is we were just talking about if the Texans make the playoffs and they bring back all the great Texans
man.
over the years, since you got Arian Foster, you got Andre Johnson,
Don't have Deshaun Watson.
Matt Schaub.
Matt Schaub has to be there.
Who else are we talking about?
Gary
here?
Kubiak Texans offense was actually sick.
It's JJ Watt.
Oh, J.J. Watt's obvious. Yeah.
Jadeveon Clowney might show up.
Oh,
But like,
yeah,
it's kind of weird.
maybe
It's like a little weird.
Yeah.
It's a little
Hopkins.
odd.
Is Hopkins
Yeah.
like that's a weird one too?
Yeah,
Like,
that's a weird one. That's definitely.
do they invite Bill O'Brien?
You also invite Bill
Probably not.
O'Brien, see what
Yeah.
happens,
I
see
don't
how
know,
it goes.
Gets weird. Steve Slayton. Steve Slayton.
I'll tell you who's
Ran-
not
naming
invited.
random Texans.
I know who's not invited.
Who's that?
Deshaun Watson is absolutely not invited.
He's probably not.
He's
He's,
not- he's
probably
not
not getting the
coming.
invite. He'll have to watch on TV. All right. Let's see.
Kyler Murray is the other thing to
Yes.
know from this game. And look, he didn't have an amazing stat line, but again, he just looks like Kyler Murray. He's taking some brutal hits is the only thing. He needs to protect himself a little bit more, but he runs in a touchdown using his legs. Athletically, he looks like the exact same guy as he was before the injury. So Kyler Murray, I think he's just a locked-in starting quarterback top 12.
He did not play great in this game, to your point. Like, again, there were a lot of, must have it, gotta have it. And credit the Cardinals defense that kept getting the ball back and getting turnovers from C.J. Stroud. But, they missed on a lot of fourth downs. And you see it right there, under 215 passing yards, just 20 completions, a lot of them short. And yet, still, because of the rushing, he finishes as the 7th best quarterback in fantasy as we head into Monday Night Football. He's been a top 7 quarterback each of the last 2 weeks since he's returned. Basically half his fantasy points are coming from the running, but that's not a fluke. That's who Kyler Murray is. And so he's clearly a locked-in QB1 here as well. The concern for me, guys, is that when Kyler Murray came back, I was just full steam ahead. Hollywood Brown, this is a guy who's got massive target share. He had massive target share with Kyler last year. He's going to be awesome. Well, he has been #not awesome.
Yeah.
He's been bad.
I think it's just something where they've had 3 different quarterbacks. Kyler is a new offense unto himself, and this is game 2 with Kyler. I would expect that Marquise Brown has a big finale, and there's not much else going on with this offense. Certainly yesterday, Greg Dortch going 6 for 76 is weird. Rondale Moore catches the bomb touchdown, then never seen again. It's just a strange offense, but I would expect that ultimately it's going to be Trey McBride and Marquise Brown, even if it wasn't yesterday.
Yeah, I would. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say what was cool about the Rondale Moore touchdown, though, is that when Jonathan Gannon got this job, it was something that he envisioned. Take a listen.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Good. Good. Shoo, 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 shoo. Shots, explosives. You can run.
That's not like what Dan Campbell does.
Very anti-Dan Campbell. By the way, that's how Adam, the producer, greets us.
Right.
That's kind of the awkward interactions that we have with Adam, producer Adam. Yeah, shoo, shoo, boom, boom.
It's right up your alley.
You know what it is? You know what that reminds me of? It just. You guys ever watch the Office? Right. Obviously the American version of it.
Yeah.
Where all the comedy is just about like how awkward he is.
It's cringe.
Right. It's just sort of like, like he means well, but he's awkward. Michael Scott is just, like this well-meaning but super awkward guy. Yeah. Like that's what that interaction is.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was a real interaction or a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode. That was just bizarre. I don't know why you can't go up to people like that and just behave like that. It's very strange.
I'm gonna start doing that though. Yeah. I'm just gonna like boop, 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 shoo, shoo, shoo.
All right, let's.
All right. What do you think? So Rondale Moore is legitimately fast. What do you think Jonathan Gannon would do if he met me?
Yeah.
Just like what's like. You're kind of a tub
It's
of
funny
lard.
that Jonathan Gannon decides to just purely interact with people based on sounds that indicate what their level of speed is as a person. Yeah. It's very
exactly.
peculiar.
Very interesting. You guys are too young for this. I was going to make a Police Academy reference, but Michael Winslow makes all the noises. Never.
Yeah, all right. Seahawks, Rams. Rams win 17-16. You got more from this one?
I was just getting. The only thing I was going to say on Hollywood Brown is that it's just the concern is it's a 15% target share in the 2 games since he's returned. Again, I'm not going to panic yet because I want to see what this offense looks like when Michael Wilson comes back. He wasn't in this game. It was a little bit of a weird game. A little bit of a weird game. They're home to the Rams, then at Pittsburgh, then they have a bye before Week 14. So, but still, I probably want to wait and see it on Hollywood Brown next week.
Yeah, I don't think you feel great about it, but it will turn at some point. There's too much talent.
7 targets for Trey McBride, though. That's the one you feel good about.
Rams-Seahawks, a game filled with fantasy disappointment. The Rams pass game, not much going there. Stafford throws for under 200 yards, but more notably here, guys, the injuries in this game, the key injuries in this game. Cooper Kupp leaves the game with an ankle injury after just 1 catch for 11 yards here, Jay. Not a good sign for a guy that's had a fair share of injury problems already.
By the way, this is footage of not Cooper Kupp. Oh, here it is. Here's the footage. Okay, yes.
Look, it was a very strange game. It wasn't as good.
Gets blocked back and then twisted. His ankle gets twisted in the blocking play.
Yeah, I don't know if I want Cooper Kupp having a crack down in the front 7.
No, but he's actually a really good
blocker.
Really
sure,
that's the weird thing.
Sure. No, he is. It's just at this stage, I don't know how often I want to be
using Debo as your running back.
Right. You know what you're kind of setting yourself up. It's
more
hindsight to criticize that, but, oh, man, that's tough.
I know. It was strange. Just a strange game overall, very uneven, no offensive rhythm. Matthew Stafford kept throwing to guys, even before Kupp got injured, who weren't Kupp or Nakua. Just a lot of Austin Trammell and Demarcus Robinson going on in this game. They kind of epitomized the game. And then I guess if Kupp is out, then Nakua again just becomes a top 8 fantasy wide receiver. And he only got 7 targets in this game, but goes 5 for 70, scores a touchdown, and also Stafford threw to him on the second down play at the end. Almost scored another touchdown if he held onto that and broken it. So it's a strange offense at the moment. I think Stafford will be better after this first week back from the injury, and Puka isn't going to be a monster.
If he ends up missing, we'll talk about this tomorrow on waivers, but I'm not sitting there going you got to go pick up Austin Trammell or Tutu Atwell. Right? I mean, It's going to be Puka. They should get Kyron Williams back as well. We'll talk about the running backs here in 1 second. This is notable from Sean McVay after the game about Cooper Kupp, and McVay is usually pretty honest with the media. He says, quote, he was going to try to come back and play. He was moving around at the beginning of the second half, but it just didn't quite feel good enough. So the fact that there was a thought to come back makes you feel good. Also positive, they play on Sunday, so he's got a full week because we've got 8 teams that are playing on a short week this week with the 3 Thanksgiving games and then the Friday game.
Yeah, not a great outlook overall because, yes, they do play at Arizona. That's a favorable matchup. Next 2 weeks after that, Cleveland, Baltimore. So good luck against that. Now, Kupp is kind of resilient and immune to defenses just because of the volume that he gets and how good he is, but those aren't the 2 matchups.
The other thing is that Stafford looked rusty in this one.
He missed a deep ball down the right sideline. He just didn't look right at all.
He had Darrell Henderson open in the flat where he just, if he just hits him in stride, Anderson goes, 40, 50 yards and possibly scores, and he just overthrew him. And Kupp had one in the end zone that, he slightly off as well that almost came up for a touchdown. Just Stafford looked rusty. You know what I mean? Looked like a guy who hadn't played in a while. So I think better days are ahead for the Rams offense as well. The last thing here is it's felt like Freeman overtook Henderson. Henderson gets the kind of baloney touchdown at the end. Henderson more involved in the passing game. And it definitely feels like if for some reason they don't activate Kyron Williams off the waiver wire, off of injured reserve for this upcoming game, Royce Freeman would be in for a really nice workload against Arizona. It's a split, but Freeman definitely dominated the touches.
On the Seattle side, a lot of injuries. Kenneth Walker left the game early with an injury. That's an oblique. Pete Carroll did not have a timeline for Walker. He said the oblique strain is legit. They play on Thursday, so obviously the turnaround here is extremely concerning. And then Geno Smith, he only returned for the final drive after missing most of the fourth quarter. Pete Carroll said that was a triceps bruise. Unsure if he's going to play on Thursday against the Niners. That would be the Drew Lock show, Jay. The only thing we said, McVay is actually pretty honest. For how much honest McVay is, Pete Carroll is an absolute liar with injuries, so we don't really know.
No, but that's my concern. Pete Carroll is one of those guys where, it's like I think it's the Life of Brian, right? Where it's just like, gets the arm cut off. It's just a flesh wound, right? And so, like, Pete Carroll is one of those guys that, like, it's just a flesh wound kind of thing. And, like, no. Like, so when he sits there and says, like, this one
The
might
Kenneth
be
Walker one is very concerning.
He may never play again.
Triceps bruise?
Right.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there something we don't know?
Wait, right. When Pete Carroll's, like, at serious and, like, you feel like, because, again, he is extremely optimistic on injuries. So
short week is no good. This line also, the game's in Seattle playing San Francisco,
That's
the
other
NBC game. So one, like the matchup against the Niners, who look like the best team in football. Short week, and then also the line was Seattle plus 4.5 a few days ago. Now it's 7. So that would give the indication that Geno may not be able to go. Now, that's guesswork at this time of the week, but I suspect he's probably not going to be 100%. And if it's Drew Lock, it's going to be a different offense.
We're going to talk a lot more about Zach Charbonnet tomorrow on the Waiver Wire show, but he'll obviously be a big focal point, somebody that we've been talking about a lot as somebody to pick up and stash. And anyway.
Somehow he's available in 54% of leagues, so he meets our threshold, which means he'll be a highlight of waivers because people don't listen.
We'll talk about him tomorrow. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to move to San Francisco.
Please do.
Okay. Obviously, the Seahawks, they have San Francisco on Thanksgiving. San Francisco takes care of business against the Bucs. They were home. They win 27-14. Brock Purdy first, Niners quarterback with a perfect QB rating since, Jay. Joe Montana in 1989.
From Australia.
That's
Is that guy
decent.
good? Yeah, no, that's pretty good. Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
I need some respect for Brock Purdy, gentlemen. He's been absolutely amazing the past 2 weeks. And yes, he has a great offense. He has Kyle Shanahan, but he is making some absolute dime throws. You look at the throw to Brandon Aiyuk. That's a perfect throw. That is a next-level throw. That is not a game manager throw. That is not a Trent Dilfer throw. He is an absolute monster at the moment. He leads the league in everything in terms of a quarterback. QBR, passer rating, EPA. He's averaging 9.7 yards per attempt. That is the second most in NFL history through 10 games. We should be talking about Brock Purdy as a top-tier MVP candidate, but he had those 3 games where 2 of them he got concussed in, so we don't think of him like that. But I think that he is a locked-in fantasy starter going forward. Trent Williams is back, Deebo Samuel is back, and he's playing as well as anyone at the quarterback position right now, Matthew.
He leads the NFL with 9.7 yards per pass attempt as well. I think a lot of people think about the San Francisco, it's just dink and dunk, and then those guys run after the catch.
Brock Purdy's a gunslinger.
Yeah.
He's not a game manager. He's a gunslinger.
There's no question about it. When Deebo Samuel is healthy this year, he's averaging over 20 fantasy points per game. As we enter into Monday Night Football, he's the second best quarterback in fantasy.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like we sit here and we talk about the Herberts of the world, the Josh Allens of the world, right? The Kylers of the world, Lamar Jacksons of the world. Brock Purdy is the second best quarterback in fantasy for this week as well. And I think that's the important part, right? He is a viable QB1. I think most people think of him as like this backup guy or a bye week guy as well. He's now had 23 or more fantasy points in back-to-back games. And it's weird because he doesn't run. And usually you want somebody to run to be an elite fantasy quarterback. But he is somebody who can do that. So if you've been sitting there, I guess, because the trade deadline is coming up this week in a lot of leagues, and if you're sitting on Brock Purdy and someone else, again, Brock Purdy is good enough to be your starting quarterback the rest of the way. If you have another big name guy, call up whoever had Joe Burrow in your league. Yeah. Be like, what do let's talk deal here. The other thing I was going to say, the crazy thing about that stat, the first San Francisco quarterback with a passing rating, perfect. The first quarterback in San Francisco with a perfect passer rating since Joe Montana. reminds me of, I was just going to say, like, well, but he's no Sam Darnold. Remember in the preseason we heard that report that, like, Sam Darnold throws a better ball than any quarterback in San Francisco history? Niners history.
Oh, that's a tough one. That doesn't age great.
That has not aged well.
Last thing, because we've spoken about this a lot, but Brock Purdy's 20-1 to win MVP. His odds are more than 3 times as long as Tua Tagovailoa. There is no world in which Brock Purdy is less likely to win MVP than Tua right now. And the good thing with Purdy betting on him, he gets to play Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson in the back end of the season, so he can dent their cases along the way. Then you need Mahomes to fall over. I think Purdy should be 4th favorite for the award. I don't think he's going to win, but he should be the 4th favorite.
That's the issue. The issue is I think that MVP is somewhat of a narrative-driven award, and
they run the slate. They run the slate and they beat the Eagles in Philly along the way and the Ravens on Monday Night Football.
And he looks good doing it. Yes. I'm with you. And he looks good with you. And definitely Mahomes hasn't been Mahomes this year. But you're right. People think he's a game manager, that he's just a point guard in Shanahan's system, that Shanahan's the MVP. And I'm with you. Like, I give the kid credit where credit's due.
He's going to have to out-duel Jalen Hurts in Philly, and then the narrative will start to change if he balls out in that game.
But given the odds, it's maybe worth throwing a couple bucks down over DraftKings when you use promo code Barry.
Of course, a big day for his pass catchers. Brandon Aiyuk, 5 catches, 156 yards, and the touchdown we showed on a perfect ball. George Kittle, 8 catches, 89 yards, and a touchdown. And we got to hear from Kittle after the game on some funny red zone math. So take a listen.
How about the red zone issues? I think you're 5 of 13, your last 13 trips. What are you seeing there then? Not finishing drives as much.
How'd we do today?
1 of 4, I think.
2 of 4. I mean, I scored and Christian scored. Your math's not great right now, man. Yeah, it is true. You're not a big math guy. No, I understand. It's difficult for some people.
George Kittle. Good clap back.
Yeah, good clap back as well.
Good spirit.
He's going to have a great career on television when he's done.
He's
George
very entertaining.
Kittle.
Or WWE. He could really pick his own adventure.
When he came on our show, the Super Bowl, it was awesome. He's very good.
One of the highlights. He's a very charismatic guy. He's well spoken. He's clearly bright as well. So, we look forward to welcoming future NBC colleague George Kittle whenever his playing career is over. But fantasy-wise, he enters Monday Night Football as the #1 tight end in fantasy. He's now had 20 or more fantasy points in 3 straight games. That's been the crazy part, is that, like, the consistency. Because with Kittle, it's usually been about, like, he has these spike games, but then he's blocking. But this offense is running so well and so hot that Kittle's been a part of it. 30% target share 2 of the past 3 games, at least 80 yards and a touchdown in consecutive weeks as well. You like the matchup this week at Seattle on a short week, especially given that Seattle might be, without their starting quarterback and running back.
Moving over to our last game, Chargers-Packers. The Packers win at home 23-20, a tough loss for the Chargers. 5 losses this season by 3 points or fewer. Of course, Jay, that's the most in the NFL.
Yeah, very Chargery type of loss, this one, where you lose to what is an inferior team. I would say the Chargers are 3-point favorites on the road. Brandon Staley is not a happy boy after the game. He was very, very upset. And Brandon, maybe you should take a look at the man in the mirror, because your defense is an absolute disaster. You're a defensive coach. You had a 27-0 lead in the playoff game and lost it. The defense is underperforming its talent. It's underperformed its talent every year, and they're a mess at the moment. And now they get to play Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday Night Football.
They are a mess. I will say this about Brandon Staley, though. At least he shows some emotion.
Yeah.
Rivera's just like...
Rivera.
I'm just like, as long as we're,
the Jordan Love section has turned into Ron Rivera.
How did this happen?
Fine, we can get back to the Chargers and Jordan Love. And but yes, go watch the clips online. You can find them anywhere. Staley did not handle the press conference particularly well. I get it. He's upset. They've not played well. They've underperformed, and feels like the Chargers and the Commanders will both have coaching vacancies at least at the end of the year.
I was waiting for Staley. His next step was to ask the reporter if they wanted to try coaching the team. Do you reckon you could do a better job than me? That felt like it was the next logical progression in his thought.
Right.
It wasn't great.
That feels like the start of a Disney movie too, by the way. Yeah. And I said yes, and then the team turned it around, and all of a sudden it's a miracle. And I literally think wasn't that the premise of a movie with Whoopi Goldberg? I swear to God, she takes over the head. She becomes head coach of the Knicks. It's like I swear to God, this is a movie.
This one.
Whoopi Goldberg somehow wins like some sort of fan contest to be a coach for a day or something like that.
Buddy.
The movie's called Eddie. And she takes over, and then of course they win, and then it just keeps winning. And wouldn't you know it, Whoopi's like she's
Great
got she's got a personality.
Yeah.
The whole
All right,
thing, and
how
it's like she bucks the trends, and she's
Frank Langella.
Frank Langella. I think, is he the general manager in it?
He's in the movie.
Yeah,
I don't know what role he plays.
Frank Langella always plays like the general manager or the president or something like that.
Underrated.
But read someone find the IMDb review of Eddie while I talk up Jordan Love. Is that what you'd like to get to?
Yes. Jordan Love. A lot of people involved in this one. 27 completions, 10 different players.
I want to give you credit, Jay, because we talked about this on Fantasy Football pregame, where you talked very quietly, even though it's been in these low-rated, ugly games. No. Jordan Love has actually started to play better the last couple of weeks, and he showed it against the Chargers at home as well. 27 of 40, 322 yards, 2 touchdowns, and spread the ball around. 10 different Packers receivers caught a pass from Jordan Love against the Chargers.
Yep, Jordan Love. This is 3 weeks in a row now where he has looked the part. And you think back to some of these early season games, particularly the ones against Detroit, against the Raiders in primetime, where he's just out of rhythm. He's just throwing to guys before they'd finished their routes. He was making bad decisions. That hasn't been the case as much the past 3 weeks. And now, by the way, he gets the Detroit team on Thursday that has been lit up defensively the past few weeks. So I think it's a favorable matchup. And I think Love is a guy that you can consider as a starting quarterback, which sounds weird.
100%. And one of our guys that he was in my others receiving votes on my love list this week, we talked about him as a deep ad on Fantasy Football pregame. Jaden Reed now very quietly double-digit fantasy points in 4 of the past 5 games, 19 more fantasy points in back-to-back games. His snap rate has increased each of the past 3 weeks. The slot where Reed lines up feels like that's an area where Jordan Love feels pretty good, and they may need to lean on their passing game a lot more, Connor, because Aaron Jones leaves this game with an injury.
Yeah, as you see our notable injuries. Now, I will say, as bad as it looked, Coach LaFleur after the game said, I don't think it's long-term. Certainly, I think it looked really bad. I was really concerned just seeing it live, but he's in good spirits there. So we'll keep an eye on Aaron Jones. Obviously, Cooper Kupp with the ankle, Kenneth Walker with the oblique, which sounds significant. Devon Achane leaves again with that knee injury. Well, so they have the Black Friday game against the Jets, so a sneaky short week for the Dolphins. We'll keep an eye on him. Diontae Foreman with the ankle, and we talked about how Khalil Herbert took over after that one as well. And Geno, we'll see what happens with Geno for that.
Pete Carroll just said that he is on track to play Thursday.
Geno? Okay.
Geno, but nothing on Walker. We'll talk about the impact of all these tomorrow on the Waiver Wire show, but just know if you have one of these players on your roster, there's a chance you're looking for help in Week 12.
Thanksgiving, it's not just about the football that's on TV. It's about the National Dog Show. Thanksgiving at noon. It's a Thanksgiving tradition, the National Dog Show on NBC. Check out our four-legged friends this Thursday at noon local time, right after the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. And find out who wins this year's Best in Show. It's my favorite promo we've ever done. We're going to break. When we're back, we got Weekend Warriors.
Why wasn't your dog invited to the National
Sunday
Dog
Scaries.
Show?
She would be an absolute terror of the dog show, all 100 pounds of her. We'll be back after this.
They've been giving me that. I ain't gonna lie. See, me, I'm honest. They've been giving me that. I just got to win and make the plays. And today I made the plays. And that's what I know I can do. I can do that all day and all games. So I got to just, own the moment, be where my feet are, and make plays for my teammates and for this organization.
Were you game planning this week? Did you think you were going to have a big day?
I did. Yeah.
So you're pretty involved.
Yeah, I knew today would be probably my day.
Weekend Warriors. That man, Calvin Ridley, the Weekend Warrior. You heard him. The confidence. I knew it was going to be my day today. Matthew, not just Calvin Ridley on the end of that things, but Trevor Lawrence also rushed for 2 touchdowns after throwing for 2 touchdowns. This is a Trevor Lawrence game we've been waiting for.
1,000%. And I would just like to take one moment here to say, you're welcome, America. Because when I put Trevor Lawrence on my hate list, he'd been kind of going along, been fine.
Right down the middle.
Right down the middle. But like when I put him on my hate list, he was my number 1 quarterback on the hate list. I mentioned how he hadn't had any 20-point games, that I was worried about the mobility, that just, there was just a lot of things that I thought, I said on pregame that I thought the Titans would cover here as well. I was so wrong on Trevor Lawrence as well. I feel like this is what motivated him to have a great game. Anyway, bad call by me. Great job by T-Law, who enters Monday Night Football as the number 1 quarterback in fantasy. 2 rushing touchdowns. Jay Croucher as well. It's his season high in fantasy points. It's his first game this year with more than 20 fantasy points. His first 2 rushing touchdowns of the year, as you see, one of them right there. Looks pretty mobile right there to me. Good job, Trevor Lawrence. Are we back to trusting him immediately? They're at Houston this week, Jay.
Very favorable matchup. And Lawrence, the key is the mobility. He doesn't look 100% to me, but he looks clearly good enough to put up those kind of numbers. And Calvin Ridley was a huge beneficiary getting back to the guy that we thought that he was going to be after that impressive start to the season.
You know what's weird is that Zay Jones was active for this game. He didn't do much in the game, but it's super weird if you just sort of look at the games in which Zay Jones has been active. Calvin Ridley sort of showed, and I don't know if it's a coverage thing or it's a confidence thing or just because maybe without Zay Jones there, like Lawrence tries to feed it to Carter. I don't know what that is, and it's such a small sample size, but it is just sort of like, okay, that's a thing. Two of the last 3 weeks, I will say he's had a 29% target share. So it feels like maybe Ridley, after a hot start and then he's kind of had a lull, maybe he's now finding his rhythm, as is this offense. It's a positive schedule coming up, though, at Houston, then home to Cincinnati. That's not a defense that scares you. Then at Cleveland, home to Baltimore. Yeah, so we got 2 good weeks, but then just, I think they're going to be matchup-dependent starters. Like, I'm not ready to say, like, Lawrence is, a no-brainer going forward. But, you're going to like him against Houston and Cincinnati the next 2 weeks.
We jump into some running backs here, Jay. Saquon Barkley, Tommy DeVito got him involved in the passing game, which was the big story here.
I think the key is, to keep it short, is purely that Tommy DeVito was able to run a real NFL offense, and he looked good, and Saquon Barkley was a huge beneficiary of that, efficient on the ground, and then got work through the air as well.
Matthew, right after that, you see Jaylen Warren right behind him with over 23 fantasy points. Jaylen Warren, 9 carries for 130 yards and a touchdown.
He's becoming a must-start. Third straight game with over 100 total yards. He's the 5th best running back in fantasy over the last 3 weeks. He leads all players in rushing yards. After the game, Mike Tomlin was asked, when you think about the fact that, do we have the tweet here, Adam? Do we have the tweet? We're working on the tweet. All right, anyway, it doesn't matter about the tweet. I'll just say this. Basically, Jaylen Warren, this is a tweet, shout out to Underdog. This is from their Twitter. Jaylen Warren had more yards than everyone on the Steelers combined. Yeah. After the game, Mike Tomlin was asked if he regretted not getting Jaylen Warren more touches. He only had 12 in this game, and Mike said no. This is a game they lost 13-10.
Oh, God.
Anyway, here's what I'm telling you. Jaylen Warren's a must-start going forward. He's the only part of that Steelers offense you feel good about. Kenny Pickett looks terrible. Najee Harris, I'm sorry, does not look good either.
Yep. Cashed our under, though, for the pickup line.
Yes, he did. He did. And Lawrence's did not. You were the correct. I should have gone with you. No doubt. Good call by you. But Jaylen Warren, this is legit. Cincinnati, Arizona, New England, Colts are the next 4. Really nice matchup here going into the fantasy plays for Jaylen Warren as well.
Jay, Tony Pollard finally gets in the end zone. Really just the story there with Pollard as he was on quite the touchdown drought.
Yeah, it's good that he got in the end zone, but kind of a disappointing game for Tony Pollard. This is the easiest matchup he'll have all season, and he was 12 carries for 61 yards and a touchdown, and then added 4 receptions for the F and 19 yards. So it's certainly don't think Tony Pollard is fixed, but good that he was able to get in the end zone.
Yeah.
They play the Commanders on Thanksgiving. He'll have a big game there. But then home to Seattle, Philadelphia, at Buffalo. It doesn't get a ton. Now, again, the Cowboys are the Cowboys, but yeah, Tony Pollard feels like he's more RB2 than the RB1 you drafted him to be.
Finally, we close this out with a quarterback. Josh Allen, after a brutal Week 1 performance against the Jets, he gets his revenge, 275 yards, 3 touchdowns. He throws the pick on the Hail Mary before the half, adds 15 rushing yards as well. No Ken Dorsey, not a problem for Josh Allen.
Apparently not. I mean, after the Dorsey stuff, you knew they were going to make a point, and he came out with a great game. Listen, Khalil Shakir, just, that's like a missed tackle, and just he goes off to the races. Great play. But that adds to it. But still, he's now had 22 or more fantasy points in 4 of the past 5. He's the only quarterback to throw 3 touchdown passes against the Jets this season. He's a top 5 quarterback as we head into Monday Night Football. Yeah, Josh Allen is back. Good.
With that,
we moved. No worries about Ken Dorsey. I think the positives are they started to get James Cook involved in the passing game in this one too.
We moved to Sunday Scaries, but stay with the same game here, Jay. Garrett Wilson had 8 targets. That's the good news. The bad news, it was 2 receptions for 9 yards. And the Zach Wilson era, we're assuming, is over.
Would you start Garrett Wilson against Miami if he plays with the injury and everything going on at quarterback?
I think I still would. It depends how many receivers do you have on your roster to start over Garrett Wilson? And once again, I don't think it's going to be Zach Wilson on Friday.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's
not that there's
terrifying.
A jarring upgrade behind him, but still.
Yeah. The Jets fans will be longing for Zach Wilson after they see what Tim Boyle serves up. Look, this offense is just completely broken at the moment. The Bills don't have a great defense at the moment, and they couldn't do anything against them.
They could not. But I would just like to take one moment here. I know everyone wants to pile on all the Jets and everything like that, but I believe this was a penalty-free game for C.J. Uzomah.
Yeah, when you don't play a ton. I saw him on punt coverage team, and I did have like a little chuckle.
But listen, he's a very well-paid punt coverage guy.
Yes, good work if you can get
player. Anyway, but I'm just, positives works where you can go. Listen, Garrett Wilson's first game below 80 yards since week 5. I just think you have to bank on talent and volume there. despite what the quarterback.
48 PFF grade for CJ Uzomah. That's a scale of 0 to 100. So not great.
It's not what you want.
By the way, higher than I would have thought.
Yeah, okay.
Taking the over. All right, Matthew. Derrick Henry, 10 carries, 38 yards, a catch for 6 yards. Tennessee's offense, not a good place.
Yeah, I thought they would be able to run the ball here. He's now had back-to-back games with under 12 rushes and 6 fantasy points. He's not even being involved in the passing game. Early in the season, they were using him a little bit in the passing game, but he's had just 2 total receiving yards over the last 2 weeks. Hasn't had a 20-yard run since week 6. That was always a big part of Henry's game, is these explosive runs. The positives are Carolina is up next. It should be a get-right game. I feel like with Derrick Henry, you just got to keep starting him. But, yeah, just running back 37 on the week as we head into Monday night.
Finally, Jay, we close out with Diontae Johnson. We talked about how besides Jalen Warren, the Steelers' offense is ugly. If Johnson falls victim to that, comes in as wide receiver 69.
Yeah, this is more about Kenny Pickett than it is about Diontae Johnson. Pickett was terrible yesterday. I understand it's a really good defense, but he needs to be better than that. He's playing like one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL right now, and I don't think you can feel confident starting any Pittsburgh Steeler pass catcher until he shows some improvement.
We're taking our last break. When we're back, we got best bets for a great Monday Night Football matchup. The Eagles at the Chiefs tonight. Don't forget on DraftKings Sportsbook this season, new customers can bet $5 and pocket $150 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, all customers can get a no-sweat same-game parlay every day. Download the app and use the promo code BERRY when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. It is time for last call. Matthew, while we were on break, some incoming news updates.
A couple of things. NFL Network reporting that Cooper Kupp suffered a low ankle sprain on Saturday. He's going to be evaluated going forward. He did try to come back, so that's a positive sign. Mike McDaniel says Devon Achane was feeling better this morning. It's the same knee, won't require surgery. Team continues to get extra feedback and opinions. They'll take it day by day as well. Speaking of the game on Friday against the Jets, Zach Wilson's not going to be starting. It is Tim Boyle under center. You think it might be Trevor Siemian backing him up?
It wouldn't shock me at this point.
And then last thing here real quickly, the plot of Eddie is that she's a chauffeur who wins a contest to be their honorary assistant coach. Eddie so impresses the team's owner, Frank Langella, that he fires the actual head coach and replaces him with, Dennis Farina plays the real head coach, and replaces him with Whoopi Goldberg. She's instrumental in turning the team around just in time to make the playoffs, where they face the Charlotte Hornets in the playoffs, coached by Dennis Farina. Who knows what happens only on Eddie, which gets a 16% ranking on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, my God. Let's take a look at our most bet Monday Night Football props on DraftKings. Obviously, the public is loving the alternate lines on passing yards and receiving yards. Jay, what do you like tonight?
So I like the Chiefs minus 2.5. Line's been bouncing around between 2.5 and 3. I generally don't like betting trends like the home team covers as a 6-point favorite because that doesn't mean anything. Every game is unique. But Patrick Mahomes as a favorite of less than 3 points or a dog is 16-4 against the spread. They crank up the pass plays. They use the real plays. I think the Chiefs cover.
I also believe, and we use this when you and I were the only ones who took the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like, again, Andy Reid off of a bye in the Patrick Mahomes era, he has literally one loss. Yep. And so I like that bet quite a bit. I'm taking Devontae Smith over 57.5 receiving yards. In the 5 games Dallas Goedert missed last season, and Goddard's not going to play tonight, he's had a 27% target share. He averaged 84 yards in those games. They're underdogs here. They'll have to be throwing. Give me the over 57.5 receiving yards for Smith.
I'll close this out as Isaiah Pacheco over 16.5 receiving yards. I don't think the Eagles are very strong in covering, obviously, tight ends and running backs, and I think Mahomes, you hit Pacheco 2 times, he's going to clear that number. It's not a high number for him.
I wonder if we see more McKinnon now as we're getting towards
second
the end
half of the
season
year.
as well,
they like
right?
to stow him away.
Yes,
We've done this.
All right, it's closing time. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Go rent Eddie. Report back to me. For Jay and Connor and Matthew, peace out.
Coming to you from the desk of the Fantasy Football Happy Hour, we have a great Monday Night Football matchup on tap. Eagles, Chiefs. Matthew, obviously a ton of obvious must-starts in this game in the fantasy perspective.
You're starting Mahomes and Hurts. You're starting A.J. Brown and DeAndre Swift. You're starting Travis Kelce, of course. I think, to me, where the interesting thing gets, at least on the Eagles side of the ball, is Devontae Smith, who's been up and down this year. No Dallas Goedert in this game. So I like Smith as a top 20 play. You see it there on your screen. I'm at wide receiver 17. Remember, This is a guy who last year in the 5 games that Dallas Goedert missed, Goedert not going to play tonight, had a 27% target share, averaged 84 yards per game and over 15 fantasy points per game. I think Smith is a top 20 play. Another interesting wide receiver on the other side of the ball, Jay, Rashee Rice, who we like a lot here.
We do like Rashee Rice, and I think that he will have a big game in a big second half of the season. Look, this Chiefs offense has been out of rhythm all season, hasn't lived up to expectations with the bye coming back from Germany. In terms of what they can improve about the offense, I think the lowest hanging fruit is just feed Rashee Rice more. He only got 2 targets against Miami. That is not enough. I think he is the most talented wide receiver on this team, and I think that they will prioritize him in this matchup against an Eagles team. Last time we saw them, got absolutely lit up by the Dallas Cowboys. So I think it's going to be a big game in second half for Rashee Rice.
So we've talked about the uneven nature of this Chiefs offense, and that also includes the running backs who've been up and down. What are you seeing from Pacheco and McKinnon tonight?
Yeah, 2 things here, Matthew. One, is this the time of the year that we've hinted at that they get McKinnon going? Before the bye week, he had over 10 fantasy points. Listen, nothing crazy, but involvement in the offense. I know they like to keep him healthy and be very conscious of how much they're using him in the first half of the season. Is this the turning point for that down the stretch? And then with Pacheco, I actually like him as a receiving back tonight. You have to be concerned against the Eagles front about him running, but I think they get him involved in the pass game against those linebackers. So an awesome fantasy matchup tonight, an awesome football matchup, a Super Bowl matchup here. Yeah. Eagles-Chiefs, Monday Night Football.
I have Pacheco as a flex, so I'm with you there. Last question for me. Set a line for me. Jason Kelce against Travis Kelce. Taylor Swift overseas. She's not going to be there, but the parents will be there. How many times is there a reference to Donna Kelce and Taylor Swift?
Yeah, 7.5. 7.5 the line.
We get a split
That's
jersey.
Lower? Yeah.
What are the odds for the split jersey?
Split jersey's a -170 favorite.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, 100%. I'm taking the over there as well. All right. Good luck tonight and Monday Night Football. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Rotoworld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.